Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here, continuing our build, finishing steps anyway, of the Rocketarium Phoenix model rocket. And it is time to slap the water slide decals on this rocket. Now, um, the directions are printed this way. The box picture is printed the other way, like so. So I'm actually going to go with this approach because the diagram that's here doesn't actually show like which way the words are pointed. So that's kind of problematic. I'm not going to get all of this done in one sitting, or at least in this video, but I'm going to do my best to get as much of the major steps done as possible. I'm going to start up at the top with this one that's listed as L1. That's this guy, and I have previously cut all these, and I've tossed them now into my hot, or at least warm water here. I have a piece of paper towel ready to dab, and I kind of clean myself up a little bit of space here. The stuff can go off the side. Instructions say about 40 seconds before the water slide decal is loose enough to be workable. You certainly don't need to count that. The idea is that it should slide off the back of the paper, but not just like fall off. You want a little bit of resistance. This first bit is going to have their little stars that are supposed to be like rivets, I think. They are going to be right butting next to the silver part that we did in the previous video. Make frequent reference back to both the color picture on packaging and the instructions to make sure you're doing this right. All right, so I'm gonna, there's a hair in here, that's annoying. Don't want that. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna do my best to get this right next to the silver, and then I'm just gonna rotate the rocket body in order to take the decal and apply it. Last little bit wanted to come off kind of crooked. That looks reasonably good. Now that doesn't quite line up, so I can adjust things up or down a little bit as necessary. Get rid of the wet, soggy backdrop there. All right, so now that it's in place, I'm happy with where it is. I don't need to adjust it. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate the rocket and kind of push, because I got a little bit of a bubble here. I'm going to kind of push the bubble as we go so that everything is flat. And in general, I'm trying to only do this with the towel, which is ever so slightly damp, right? Not particularly damp. So that way I don't have any real issues here. Here, there's a bit more of a bubble, so I want a wet finger there to try to smooth it out. All right, and then we are back to the starting point. That looks pretty good. For the ones that are just wrapping around the body, they tend to go pretty easily. I generally don't have issues with them. Just apply them like I demonstrated, spinning the rocket underneath, and you'll probably get them more or less lined up. Now, the next one, I didn't quite cut out right. You can see the instructions tell you right where you're supposed to snip, and I actually broke it up. This one that says L2, I broke it up into 2 bits, which is not quite right, but it's also not really a huge deal. The one that I'm going to apply first is this guy, so the bottom part of it, and it's going to go right next to the top blue ring that I've applied. And looking at the picture, the solid line part, the the darker of the 2 solid lines, that's going to go right, well, not quite right next to it, but close. The amount of space that I left when snipping the decal out is probably going to be good enough. By the way, I snipped all these out using scissors. I find it way easier to use scissors than a hobby knife for most applications, this one included. There are some times when you have to like cut out internal segments, and that gets a little tricky to do with scissors, so I do use a hobby knife for that. But by and large, this is something that you can and probably should do with scissors, especially if you are comfortable using scissors, more so than a hobby knife, which I think most people probably are. All right, so let's assume that this is good enough. Ooh, definitely is. Yeah, this is, so this got twisted. This is a bit of a problem. I have to gently coax it back to straight. So this is like why you don't want to let it sit in the water too long, because stuff like that can happen. Not a big deal, but still uh, potentially problematic. All right, so I'm going to try to get the decal part, the clear part, the edge of it, right next to the blue strip, and use that as my guide. And then spin the rocket as I go. And if you can see that you're leaving bubbles in there, just kind of pull the decal taut ever so gently. And that probably will get rid of, maybe not the whole problem, but some of it. Here I seem to have, in applying it, it's folded itself back over. And yeah, that's a problem because it's, the fold is underneath rather than on top. So this is going to be a situation where I'm going to break out my hobby knife, not to cut anything, but to use it to just kind of separate the two. Actually, it might be on top. It's kind of hard to tell. Let's try my finger here. Maybe that'll separate it. Yeah, it didn't really help. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pull this part off a little bit and run my fingers over it. There we go. And that separated things out nicely. All right, that is pretty good. Since I had to spend all that time, I might have to kind of re-wet everything here as I go, but let's see what's going to happen here. Okay, it's a little bubble that I'm pushing forward, but it's not a significant one. By the way, I kind of arbitrarily placed these decals, not on the rocket, but where the text starts. This is not an issue that I am going to get bent out of shape about. I mean, there's tiny little text that says lift here. Oops, I apparently bumped the bottom part at some point. That's not great. There we go. There is apparently like an exact right place to put the lift heres. They probably should line up. I didn't take the time to do that. If you want to, by all means, go ahead. But that is an element that I don't think I am not concerned about. All right, let's do the last one that's going to go the whole way around. And if you cut out and follow the instructions right, this would actually be part of the decal labeled L2, but I didn't for whatever reason. This one is going to go just above. In fact, it should be basically flush with the decal that I just placed. I can see there's a little bubble there, so I'm going to try to just squeeze that out. You can see it one down here too. Okay. Best bet here is try not to touch things. Once they're on, try not to touch them. So maybe work here, then work back here. But I wanted to get all of these on as quickly as possible. Now this one, because I cut it out, I do actually kind of want to look at it. So it doesn't really matter. It probably should. The lift here part should be kind of centered in one of these black segments. So I will try to do that, but I'm not going to get bent out of shape over it. Okay. That's not quite right. There we go. All right, so I've got it started. Same deal as always. Oh, geez. Fins did not want to rotate smoothly there. smooth things out. Actually, there we go. All right, so this is the starting point. I'm going to hold that with my thumb at least for a little bit. Ooh, and didn't go as intended. Okay, let's try that. Okay, I'm going to try to hold it with my, oh, nah, you know what, it's fine. I'm just going to dab along here and we can worry about other elements after we've basically got this in place. Okay, that looks pretty good. Again, I see a couple little deformations, little bubbles in the decal that's above, so I'm going to try to get them out still. The decal's still wet enough that they're not going to be permanent features at this point. And even if it were pretty dry at this point, which it's not, because there hasn't been enough time here yet, you could wet your finger and make some modifications. Just be careful. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, now I'm going to do two more remaining ones, I think. I'm going to put on the big one that goes in the front middle up here. And I'm going to put one of these text ones in. The rest of these are just, there are a lot of them. I will do them off camera. You don't need to watch because there's like 10 or 12, I don't know, these little tiny things that say no lift. And that's going to be tedious at best. The last bit here, though, oh, and it's already coming apart. That's very exciting. The one thing I want to do is I want to pick the side that's going to be like the presentation side. And I usually pick the side that is opposite to the launch log. So that'd be this side. This one, again, if you really want to break out the measurements, you can. It goes, it's basically centered maybe a little bit this way. Not much. So let's just say I'm going to try to center it in this forward segment here. Okay. The nice thing, what I really appreciate about waterslide decals and the reasons we use them is that you can move it around a good amount. Make sure that you are satisfied with it before you decide that it's perfect. So if it didn't quite go on straight, it's not exactly where you wanted it to go, then slide away, and you should be able to do that with minimal trouble. So that's where that one goes. The rest of these ones, they all say Cerno 64020. I don't know, the numbers are all different actually. Well, that's actually going to be a useful guide here. Now, you can look back to the instructions here, and they're all labeled. But you can also look at the picture. So I'm going to put on the one that goes right in the middle here. It says it is S3 according to the instructions. So it's the one that says 64020. So that's kind of convenient. It also says propulsion section, which you can actually read. Well, break out like reading glasses or magnifier right here. So this one's going to go in between the two cut blue segments right here, and it's going to be closer to this one than that one. If you really cared, it is apparently ½ inch past the blue part right here. But I'm not going to care that much. So I'm again just going to eyeball it. So it goes right about there, and I want it nice and straight. A look here, it is not quite nice and straight yet. That looks passable. Might be, it's pretty close to ½ inch too. There we go. All right, so there is a lot more decal work that I need to do. My water is tepid at best, so this is where I'm going to wrap this video. There's not really anything new to see. It's just going to be me applying these like 20 decals slowly but surely, probably in like 3 more batches. Because when the water gets cold, it doesn't work as well. So that's it for this segment. It should be good to fly. The only thing that needs to happen between now and then is it's going to get a clear coat. The clear coat spray paint I use is actually glossy, which is probably not ideal for this because I use kind of a flat gray for the body, but it doesn't really matter. So that's the last step that needs to be done. It is a worthwhile step, not because I want it shiny, but because I want a little bit of paint to protect the decals. They're very fragile otherwise. All right, so thanks for watching. I'll see you in whatever comes next. See you then.